All right, break it down
Greeting
here.
everyone, this is Fadi. Welcome back to a continuation of
What up,
our
though?
assessment of early Quranic manuscripts and how those manuscripts basically are so damaging to the history of Islam and the Quran in this case. But today we're going to talk even beyond just the manuscript. We're going to talk about the so-called qira'at readings, variant readings, if you wish. And we really titled it very simply this, how a 5'2" woman, I would like to call her a woman of God, destroyed the Quran. And indeed, she did. Who is that woman? And why are we talking about her? Well, I'll let Dr. J answer that question. Dr. J, tell us more.
Okay, to understand, we need a little bit of background. Now, for what the Muslims are telling us is that there, as we said in our previous episodes, there is an eternal Quran, has always existed, sent down over a period of 22 years from 610 to 632, and was finalized and written down at the time of Uthman in 652, and for the last 1,400 years, not one letter, not one word has changed. Those are the four claims, right? If those are the four claims,
Yo, man, I'm going to probably watch more of these series too, just like I'm watching Alpha Did and Alpha D. Man, I wish I could pronounce the brother's name the right way. I'm pretty sure I'm jacking it up. But anyway, and Samson Moon series, I'm probably going to start watching Dr. J Smith and Alpha D because they've been doing a lot of work together over the past couple years. So I'm going to have to check these out, break them down. But from my little bit of studies that I've been doing, what's up, Muslims? Why do y'all think that this information has been out since 2014? If I'm not mistaken, probably even a little bit before that, but if I'm not mistaken, Daniel Brubaker, which I posted in my last video, his book came out 2014, or at least it was getting written 2014, about the different variants and the different scribbles and errors in the Quran. That's been out, y'all. So what's up? I can't tell you how many times that when I post my shorts or my videos that show not only his book, but the errors from the book and or Dr. Smith's presentations, people want to deny, like they playing basketball. Deny. Don't let the inbounds pass come in. Don't let the pass come in. But it ain't working because the information's out there. I would be a fool if I didn't study my own belief in my own religion, because then you just look dumb when you say stuff like that. Like, oh, that's not true. Oh, that's a lie. But then, the information's out there. So it really shows that people really don't be paying attention, but they want to say whatever they want to say. But hey, you really can't stop them. They're going to do what they want to do.
you can't. I said from the very beginning of these episodes, we need to find those manuscripts. And if we find anything that shows that there are different words, different letters, that would destroy the whole notion of what the Quran's saying in chapter 85, verse 22, in chapter 10, verse 15, chapter 18, verse 27, and chapter 15, verse 9. Well, here, this 5-foot woman named Hatun Tash. She's my colleague. She has worked with me since 2013. Almost 9 years we've worked together. She is the one that took over my ministry, and I gave it to her when I left London in 2017, and she has been going by leaps and bounds, way beyond what I was able to do. But back in 2013, she came across 6 or 7 of these Qurans in North Africa that were different, all Arabic. And she said, something's wrong here. We can't have different Qurans. And so she was the one that brought him home, and I said, well, let's take him down to Speaker's Corner. So we took him down to Speaker's Corner. Look at the slide here, and I want to show you this slide. Here's the slide of us down at Speaker's Corner, the ones on the left. There we are holding him up, our team. That's Hatun Tash on the bottom slide with the glasses, with her mouth open, saying, stop it, because they're trying to grab these facsimiles that we show of example after example. We took about maybe 25 of these examples and started going through them, show them how different they were. And of course, the crowd just could not stand it. They were just grabbing them, trying to tear them. Fortunately, we had plasticine them so that they didn't have, we laminated them, so they would not tear. But look over on the right. Look at the guy that's on the right. That's Muhammad Hijab.
Right.
He was there, and he saw this, and he realized what was going on. He quickly went outside the crowd, and he started calling all the Muslims to join him, to leave what we were showing. He said, do not look at what they're showing you. Do not listen to what they were saying. So he pulled the crowd towards him. That happened in 2016, June of 2016. These 26 Qurans were all found by Hatun Tash. She found them going to Morocco, going to Jordan, and I think she also went to Yemen. Those 3 countries. Evidently, you can buy them all over. I have 9 of them in my library. I've shown them many times. These are all Arabic. They are all 114 surahs, and they all come from the 8th, 9th, and 10th century. So they're over.
Hold on. So they all come from the same spot, but they're not the ones that we got now. I could be wrong. If I'm not mistaken, it was published in 1924. Maybe it was 1940. I think it was either 24 or 44. I can't remember. Let me know in the comments. So this one that's been published and the one that's been in circulation, well, at least the Hafs, I think, is the most used one. So that's not the one. That's not the one that they got. that also in Arabic, different variations, 9 or 10 of them. Where's this information been? It's been out there. Y'all just ain't been looking for it. Y'all just thought y'all heard. It's like, oh, this got to be perfect because everybody and their mama told me it was perfect. Shoot, I ain't gonna front until I started looking into this. I thought it was perfect too. I was like, man, no way. I mean, it still ain't gonna be true because Satan can do what Satan can do. But come to find out, long story short, Satan's still gonna be Satan, and he ain't gonna be able to preserve nothing like God can. The truth, the whole truth, nothing but he can make it look how people may want it, spice it up a little bit. Don't really make no sense. Hey, but the truth is coming out, and it's gonna be hard pill to swallow. But y'all gonna have to come to the truth. What y'all thought ain't really what it is. Y'all thought it was perfectly preserved. Y'all thought it was the word of God. We ain't even gonna talk about the historical inaccuracies in it. We ain't gonna talk about the scientific miracles that were quote unquote scientific miracles that have already been proven well before that. Hey, but you know what it is. Hey, you still want to be on that train? If you want to die by that, God bless you.
1,000 years old, these Qurans, not the ones we have today. They are now newly published. So this became such a problem, you can see back then, caused such a furore. So we went actually and did this 3 different times. Now, what happened? That was 2016. Let's come forward now, or come more recently to 2020. I want to show you this slide here. So let's go to this slide here and look at this picture of Muhammad Hijab on the left and Dr. Yasir Qadhi on the right. They did an interview about this problem. He had to find out. Dr. Yasir Qadhi is a world leading authority on the Qira'at. He did his doctoral thesis on this very subject.
Hey, yo, you can tell this was during COVID. Them boys struggling out there. Them boys look homeless, boy. Dr. Hijab, or I don't know if he's a doctor. Muhammad Hijab and Dr. Yasir. Yeah, them the COVID looks right there. Them is the in-house, ain't doing nothing else right there, boy. Shout out to them. Well, I mean, shout out to Dr. Fazir, forget Muhammad Hijab.
Yeah, on the Quran at Yale University, graduated in 1995. So he would be the world authority on the Qira'at. So Muhammad Hijab needed to go to him. And I just put here 12 points that came up in that interview. Let's go through them real quickly, one by one to unpack what happened on June 8, 2020. We're now just past June 8, 2022. This is 2 years ago. Just 2 years. Number one. He put his hand out and he says, which of the Qurans that we now have today was the one that was received by Muhammad? Which is the one that's in heaven? So he knew that there were different Qurans. He knew that these did not agree. That's obvious. Otherwise, he wouldn't ask this question.
Exactly. He definitely was troubled by something, and that's why he's asking that question.
Because we had...
So he knew apparently? So apparently the brother knew, huh? So he just knew. But see, that's like another thing. I was listening to some other apologetics and they were talking about that. Really, the real scholars don't debate certain things anymore, that they stopped debating them a long time ago. Much like, again, the scientific miracles, they stopped a long time ago. So it seems like these brothers ain't really trying to stop it. It seems like they know.
Is because of what happened to him. Muhammad Hijab said, well, is this your crisis of faith that you had back in 1995 at Yale? And he recoiled and said, no, not a crisis of faith, a crisis of knowledge, a crisis of understanding, which obviously is a crisis of faith. That caused the crisis of faith. It caused a crisis of faith for Muhammad Hijab. He didn't know what to tell those people outside of that crowd. So he said, we cannot doubt it. We must listen to it and we must recite it. It's almost like he was trying to persuade himself not to get back to this crisis again. It was fascinating to watch. He said, Muslims have a respect for the Quran, he said. And he says, there are certain questions we don't ask of the Quran. But when I was at Yale University, getting my doctorate, there are no red lines. Right. See, in Islam, there are red lines. You don't go beyond, but not at Yale University, not here in the West. There are no red lines, and therefore all these questions were being asked. He was being inundated with them, and he didn't know how to answer him. So he said, this is a real problem. And then he turned to Muhammad Hijab, and he says, you in the East, Muhammad Hijab's living in London. I found it fascinating. He called him the East. What you're saying is 99% of the Muslims live in the East. That means the rest of the Muslim world versus me, who lives in the West in Houston.
Never knew.
You in the East... your standard narrative has holes in it. Immediately when he said that, I started clapping. Now, we've grabbed that phrase that he said, and we have made it now a meme. standard Islamic narrative has holes in it, the SIN.
Right.
And he was the one that mentioned that back on June 8th, has holes in it. And this became his signature piece. Now, he said that Western academics, he says, we have a real problem in the West because Western academics have come leaps and bounds since the last 100 years. And they're looking at us Muslims as if we're the emperor with no clothes.
When it comes to just getting down to wanting to know and the knowledge, and not being held down by certain standards, I think that's very beneficial. And I think that's why it allows us to know more so about all the different types of religions. Now, granted, it might be the same in other spots, but if I'm going off of what this brother right here, Dr. Jay Smith, is presenting, he knows a lot more when it comes to scholastics than me. So I'm going, appeal to the authority on this one. But I think that is the case because we just have more freedoms to do certain things like that. Where it comes to other places over there, they might not necessarily have that much or even want to, because it's kind of like how he was saying, just like, don't question it.
I loved it. What imagery that he was using this. He didn't realize that we were all watching this interview. And he went on to say that the Qirat should never, therefore, be brought up in public. Never. This must be something we keep behind closed doors. Because no one would understand it, he said. And then he started almost being prideful. He says, in the last 25 years, you have never seen me talk about this. You will never see me talk about this in public. However, after this recording, you can come and we can talk about it, and certainly you can take my class, which to me is an oxymoron. If he's never talked about it, why would I want to take his class? Obviously, he doesn't know how to answer this question, and he wasn't answering it during this interview. And then he says, in 25 years, since my time at Yale University, I've never talked about this subject, nor will I ever. However, take my class, and I'll tell you everything about it. And then he went into this kind of mantra. The Quran is the uncreated speech of Allah. It is preserved. The Quran is known. The Quran is mutawatir. You could see it was a memorized speech that I hear Muslims doing all the time. From yay high to the grasshopper, this is what they're told. It is the uncreated speech. It is inimitable. It is preserved. It is known. It is mutawatir. That means there is, from the very beginning till today, there are no changes. Not one word, not one letter has changed. It is exactly the same that which is preserved in heaven. They have almost memorized it, and they are almost in a trance when they say it. He went into that. He did this mantra right there in front of us. And I said, this is exactly what we want to see. They do not want to get beyond that mantra. They dare not get outside that comfort, that red line that they cannot go beyond. And then he says that when Ahmadinejad asks a second time, puts out his hand, I'm giving you a blank sheet now. He's been listening to all this. Is almost about 28 minutes later. Puts out his hand and he says, okay, Yasser Qadi, please tell me which of these Qirat, which are you going to write? Qadi recoiled again. Do not ask me this question. Finally, after 28 minutes, he finally had to acquiesce. And guess what he said?
What did he say?
They are all the Quran.
That's right.
So, Hamza, you mean parts of the Hafs and parts of... Yes, parts of the Hafs going to be there. Some of the Warsh is going to...
Yeah, buddy. That's how it's going to be now. It's going to go from the uncreated to the eternal word to, well, they just, different variants. It's cool. It's just like the Bible, so it's fine. But all this time where people are like, nah, the Bible's corrupt because of the different variants, even though y'all can trace it back, even though y'all have a good understanding of where these variants come from. Quran is perfect. As the years come on and more people realize this, they're going to switch it up. They're still going to hold on to it. Some won't. A lot of them are going to understand and know the truth, just like some people who understand and know the different contradictions and lies in the Quran that's already there, that people make known today. So when people find this out, unfortunately, there's going to be a large quantity that are still just so stuck in their ways, and they're being mesmerized by Satan and what he has for them and their particular belief, that they're just going to be there. It's going to be unfortunate. And then their tone's going to change, and they're going to start to sound a lot like the people they try to debate now when it comes to the different variants. But the difference is that wasn't like that from the beginning. It wasn't like that from the beginning, and it's supposed to be the eternal, never-changing word. And it's supposed to explain everything. That's a whole nother thing, but that's how it's going to be.
Be there. Maybe some of the Kalun, maybe some of the Kasai. You just take them and you mix them around, and that's the Quran that we get today. And I just started laughing because I realized Neither did Yasakadi or Muhammad Hijab know what we know. There are over 93,000 differences between these
93.
30 different Qurans, all in Arabic, all over 1,000 years old. No wonder this has been the most difficult question, but in that one fell sweep, he destroyed the preservation of the Quran in that one interview.
His
All
own. It be
because of a
on.
5'2" woman who introduced it there at Speaker's Corner, filmed it so the whole world could see it back on June 8th.
I gotta watch that, y'all.
2000.
Guess what's coming out next? Yo, man. So that was Fadi and Dr.Jay Smith talking about the preservation or lack thereof of the Quran and how that there's so many different variants, so many different, not only variants, but Arabic variants. So that just, the information's out there, y'all. So you know I got to bring the scriptures, man. I'm going to leave y'all with a reading from Hebrews 13, 7 through 9. And it states, remember those who rule over you, who have spoken the word of God to you, whose faith follow, considering the outcome of their conduct. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Do not be carried about with various and strange doctrines, for it is good that the heart be established by grace, not with the foods which have not profited those who have been occupied with them. Love y'all. Catch y'all next time. It's your boy, the Scripture Plug. I'm out.